Morning, friends. It's Michelle from Little Farm in the Valley. So for months now, months and months, I've had my sourdough starter sitting in my fridge, just completely dormant. I mean, it's been a long time, and glancing into it does not look super great. I think it is encouraged that you take it out occasionally and give it a feed or something like that. And I haven't done that at all. So today I'm gonna pull it out and see what the damage is and attempt to revive my sourdough starter. I really need to get back into the sourdough baking. The summer season has just been so busy that I have not taken the time at all for sourdough. And I'm really excited and ready to get back into it. So today I'm gonna see if I can revive my sourdough starter. So here's how reviving my starter is going. I set it out of the refrigerator to bring it to room temperature to feed it. And it was so bad that I dumped most of it. I saved just a little bit that I will build back up again. As soon as that's room temperature, I'll feed it. But I have a chore ahead of me cleaning this. It was pretty bad. I think I should have taken it out at least once a month to feed it. But it's been pretty much sitting there for about 3 months untouched. Well, our container is looking a whole lot better now that it's washed. So I'm going to take this little bit of starter that I saved, and we're going to do our first feed. I like to feed my starter with rye flour. Even if I don't necessarily bake my bread with rye flour, the starter really does like to be fed rye. This is a Danish dough hook, and it's my favorite tool to feed my starter. I did a cup of water and a cup of flour. Kind of eyeball the consistency that you like. I think I'm going to add some more flour. And I'll show you a little trick. If you're struggling with your starter, needing a boost, try adding some caraway seed. I have barely any left, but it just needs a little sprinkle. It really likes caraway seed. Some people say it puts your starter on steroids, which can only be a good thing, right? So I want to kind of get it to the consistency of a thick pancake batter. It's a good feeling when this jar is clean. I feel like it doesn't take long to get it all messy again. So this is kind of how I like my starter, the thickness. So I'm going to take my rubber band. I like to use this to measure the growth. Being that we just took it out of the fridge and we just fed it, I don't think there's going to be a huge rise. So right now it's 2:14 p.m. I might feed it again this evening before bed. So at that point, we'll check the progress and see if this has risen at all. So I forgot to feed the starter last night, but there wasn't too much of a rise, but the bubbles are a very good sign. And I can also see some bubble action in the starter. So we're gonna go ahead and feed it again today and basically just keep building it up over the next couple of days. And when we can get a nice rise out of it, we might even do the floating test, where you take some water and put in a little bit of starter, and if it floats, that tells you it's ready to bake with. keep adding my flour until I like the consistency. See, that's enough. Get that all stirred in, and then I will adjust my rubber band and we'll see what it does today. I'm not huge on the discard thing because when I have my starter out all the time to bake with, I don't really have a lot of discard, but at this point, when it's been in the fridge for a while and I'm building it up, we might have some discard. I'll probably just make something with it. Well, there's our starter for today. If I remember, I'll feed it again tonight. So we actually did get a pretty decent rise out of that. So I'm just gonna take it before I go to bed and just do one more feeding. The bubbles in the starter are a really good thing. That means it's alive, it's active, and it might be ready to bake at this point, but I like to build it up. So I'm going to add water. I'm just going to eyeball it. So I'm going to add my water and my flour. And by tomorrow morning, it should be looking even better. A lot of recipes say you want to do the 100% hydration, which is equal parts water and flour. But honestly, for the most part, especially when I'm building it up, I just eyeball it. And when I have a recipe that needs to be measured out in like pounds or ounces or on a scale, at that point I will probably be a little bit fussier with making sure I have equal parts. But a lot of the times, especially as you get more confident, you can start to eyeball it. Well, it's morning. Our dough has had a pretty nice rise. It was actually up to here, but it's already starting to come down. So we'll probably do one more feed, and then later today I might mix my bread. Well, we'll do the floating test maybe and see where we're at. But I would say we're just about ready to make bread. Add a little bit more flour. Well, I'll check it later today and see if I think it's ready to make bread. So we've had a beautiful rise to our starter in just a couple hours. So we're going to try the water test. We're just going to take a little bit, put it in the water, and hope that it floats. Voila, it is floating. So that indicates that it's ready to bake with. So I'm going to get my bread recipe, and we're going to go ahead and mix up our bread. That is nice. Beautiful rise. Nice, active, bubbly, just what we're looking for. Well, we're going to start with a cup of active, bubbly starter. Safe to say that's what we have here. I'm excited to get back in the sourdough game. It's been months since I've baked anything sourdough. With the garden and the canning, it's just been too much going on, and it's just easier, I guess easier and faster to bake a bread with the yeast because the sourdough is usually a couple days process. So we're going to put our starter aside and feed it before we put it away. Now I'm going to do a couple cups of water, filtered water. Do 2 tablespoons of sugar. This is actually a recipe that I've never made. I'm trying a new recipe. You can tell this starter almost even wants to float in here. So I'm going with King Arthur bread flour. Usually have very good success with this. I'll just start with 3.5, 2, 3. This is a half here. And I'll do it again. 2, 3.5. And then there's another flour that you can use, plus 3/4 cup all-purpose flour. Well, I don't know if I'm gonna bother. I'm just gonna add more King Arthur flour. I'm gonna fill my cup about 3/4 of the way and call that 3/4 cup. Seems like a lot of flour even for 2 loaves of bread. So our last ingredient is sea salt, 1.5 teaspoons. I assume you can probably use any salt that you want. Let's see, that's about 2 teaspoons because I'm doubling it. And now we mix it. So I added more water, and the recipe isn't exaggerating when it says it's a little tough to work. It was a little bit tough. So what I have now is kind of a shaggy dough, which is what I'm looking for right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and cover it and let it rest for 30 minutes. And apparently after that rest, it gets a little bit softer. Okay, so we've let this dough rest for 30 minutes. Now we're gonna do a shaping. Oh, it is softer. It's definitely softer. So at this point, I'm going to cut it in half because I'm doing 2 loaves. If I can find my cutter, I'm going to eyeball about half of this. And I'm going to kind of work it into a loose ball. Oh no! What did you do? Okay. So basically what I'm doing now is just shaping them, working them for about a half a minute, and then I'm going to put them into bowls for what's called a bulk rise. And the bulk rise is where you let them just sit at room temperature. You cover them with a damp towel, and over, it depends, 6 to 8 hours, they should double in size. So one of them I'm gonna put in a Banneton bowl. These are gonna be sandwich loaves though, so after this rise, I'm gonna shape them into more of a loaf. Just work that for a little bit. So I will dampen my towel that I have laying here and cover them until they're doubled in size. I think this is gonna make for a late night for me because if I'm estimating correctly, I might be baking around 11 or 12 midnight. So it's been 4 or 5 hours. This one's arisen a little bit and this one has kind of just spread out, maybe because of the shape of the bowl. But since I'm a little pressed for time, it's getting late, it's 7:30, so I'm just gonna do the last step here and get them in the pans to proof. So I'm just going to work them a little bit and change them into more of a loaf shape. It's kind of puffy, so it did rise a little bit. And I think I'm going to proof them in the oven with just the light on and hope that I can bake before midnight. My loaf pans are different sizes, so usually this loaf rises more because this one's bigger and then it's a little flatter, but we'll see how this goes. It says they're ready to bake when it starts to peak over the top of the pan. But with my pans being different sizes, it's sometimes a little bit hard when I'm doing two loaves, because one will be above the pan and one won't. This one's a little stickier than the other one. Well, we'll see what happens. The recipe says 1 to 2 hours, but just by looking at them, I would bet this one might be over the pan before that one, but we'll see what happens. Well, it's 9:45 and it's looking really good. I think I could bake it. So let me check my recipe for the temperature and the baking time. We might finish before midnight after all. Excuse the mess on the bottom. I did some tomato paste and it ran over on me. Well, it's 9:45. I just turned the oven on. I'm gonna do 375 and it's looking pretty good. So I think this will turn out really well. My timer just went off. It's getting pretty late in the day. Sorry about that steam there. Looks beautiful. So sourdough always has a way of showing itself. Kind of every loaf of sourdough bread that you'll have will kind of have a opening somewhere. That's what I've heard anyway. But overall, it looks very, very nice. I'm gonna get it out of the pans and get it cooling. And tomorrow morning, we're gonna see what it tastes like. Sure looks nice. So here it is out of the pans. Turned out very, very nice. So I'm gonna wrap it in some towels and tomorrow morning, we'll see what it tastes like. Well, it's morning, so we're going to cut into this bread and see what it looks like and tastes like. It's a little bit on the heavy side. But it looks good. It has that, how do I want to say it? The crunchy type texture. Anyway, it did yesterday when it came out of the oven. When I pressed my finger in, I heard a crunch. So it should have that crunchy sourdough-like texture. We'll see how it is with some butter. Really, really good. A little bit chewy, like you want sourdough to be. I would say it definitely turned out really good. This is going to be delicious toasted for breakfast.
Well, anyway, guys, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a video, and we will talk to you soon.